Here's my top 10 farming games. If you like action, you won't find it here. If you like turnips and radishes and these guys, there'll be bloody loads. Okay, let's get this one out of the way. Farming Simulator. I'm not saying it's necessarily worse than others on this list. It's probably quite a bit better than most of them. It's just not what I want. It's too realistic. It's just a job. I've no doubt there are loads of folks out there who love their tractor drive shafts and rotary combine harvesting gizmos. That's not me though. I like a bit more whimsy in life. I don't want to engage in a realistic farming simulation in the same way I don't want to go to the gym or see a doctor. It just doesn't interest me. Yes, maybe I should be more in touch with reality, but I'm not. This one isn't for me. But if you're not me, which statistically you're not, maybe you'll like it more. In which case, go and play Farming Simulator, whatever year we're in now. Now to get as far away from actual farming as possible, let's talk about graveyardkeeper. As the name implies, you aren't a farmer, but the groundsman of a local graveyard. You plant the recently deceased, tend to them, water them, and hope they grow into another wonderful new life, which they won't because they're dead? Am I explaining this right? The game gives you a far from idyllic plot of land where you'll be kept up at night by the souls of 1,000 patients. From here, you can grow all sorts of crops, make up a rudimentary vineyard, and turn all that lovely produce into booze. That booze can be sold at your own tavern, which will speed up the rapid decline of the townsfolk and ensure a steady stream of bodies for you to use. At number 8, we've got Slimerancher. Is a rancher classed as a farmer? I mean, I know it isn't, but is it? Maybe? I'm gonna say yes. It's basically just animals rather than plants. But here, you won't be tending to animals at all. Instead, you're tending to slimes. They're happy, healthy, and squishy, and you share a symbiotic relationship with them as you care for their every need. They'll essentially be your boss. You are a mucus butler. Despite this, the game has a ton of charm, and the slimes themselves are undeniably adorable. There's plenty of them to discover, collect, and give big gloopy hugs. Aww. It's kind of like Pokemon, but with less fun stuff, and more chores. Enough cute stuff, time for some violence. One farming sim with a nice healthy dose of combat is Kynseed. It's the brainchild of some former Lionhead devs. That is, the former developers of Fable, and that whimsical medieval fantasy vibe is on full show here. So if farming, fighting, and wooing local maidens and misters doesn't fill your fancy, you can also set up your own medieval business. Be ye a blacksmith, alchemist, or just a boring old merchant, there's plenty of ways to live out all your dark age fantasies here. Oh, and there's also another game called Sunhaven that's kind of like this one. Combat and farming and whatnot. They remind me of each other, so they can share a spot. Pick your favorites, and they can be number 7. I had a joke about the TV show Lost to start this section, but I couldn't quite work it out. This game is called Coral Island. It takes place on an island. It looks brilliant, and it's got layers of polish and an attention to detail that are sometimes skipped over in this genre. It honestly looks gorgeous, and if you're playing these games to whisk yourself away from the boring and mundane of everyday life, this is definitely on the more immersive side. And it's got all the activities that I know you love in these types of games. Farming, exploring, mining, a little bit of fighting, fishing? Well, you're on a bloody island. Of course there's fishing. It's a great way to whittle away many a rainy day, and unlike Lost, you won't feel empty, deflated, and like you've wasted valuable days after playing it. Get in there. Suck it, Lost. And now for something completely different. Atomicrops doesn't have any of the other features and gubbins in the rest of this list, but it's got loads of farming. So I'm going to talk about it whether you like it or not. So, this isn't about moving to a new town and starting a life for yourself as a cabbage baron. No, not at all. There is a town, but it's in a sorry state, and they're relying on you to grow them some fruit and veggies. Not to help them prosper, no, simply to stave off starvation and prevent the town falling to an impending nuclear winter. Sounds bleak, huh? Well, it's not. The game is anything but. You grow your crops each day and then defend them from rampaging enemies. You can get cow tanks to defend the precious plants, wield an array of mad and misguided guns, and mutate your plants to make them even more gross. It's bizarre, it's mad, it's probably frowned upon by many. This series is older than I am, is what I would say if I was a little bit younger. Harvest Moon has been a part of gaming history since 1996. It's positively ancient. First gracing the SNES, it's since delighted would-be farmers on Game Boys, PlayStations, DS's, Wii's, GameCubes, and other gizmos. There's so many games in the series that you wonder where they get all their ideas from. Well, the secret is, they're all pretty much the same. That's not entirely a bad thing. It was a good premise, one that laid the inspiration for pretty much everything else on this list. Tending crops, caring for animals, enriching your local town, becoming filthy rich. It is the OG, and some may say the best. So after Harvest Moon took the world by storm for over a decade, the series just kind of disappeared? What happened to it? Maybe we'll never find out. Or maybe you'll find out right away. Harvest Moon morphed like an aging Power Ranger into the newer, cooler, fancier farming game that is Story of Seasons. Where Harvest Moon may have tilled the earth, fertilized it, and planted the seeds, Story of Seasons is there waiting to harvest. The finer details have been worked out by its predecessor. All it had to do was refine, make it prettier, bring the old franchise up to date and into its glorious next era. And it does exactly that. It's familiar, warm and comfortable, but it doesn't feel like a 20-year-old franchise. It feels fresh, daring and invigorated. It's had a facelift and a day at the spa, and it's returned better than ever. And here at number 2, I have a very bold pick. It's an early access, but it's still one of the best around. It's farming with an Australian twist, Dinkum. So, this game takes a bit of a twist from your usual farming sims. It borrows heavily from Animal Crossing and brings the best features from that into the mix, while dropping all the features that slow the game down. None of this real-time malarkey. You can play as often as you want, tending to your outback island, whilst welcoming all sorts of travelers and friendly folks to your new home. The aim is to build your little campsite into a bustling, thriving portside town. There's all the things you'd expect from the other games. Fishing, cooking, exploring, building, crafting, and etc. Plus all the daily perils that come from living in Australia. Shark attacks, alligator invasions, bugs. During your bouts of landscaping and island upkeep, you can whittle away the days filling up the town's museum, exploring the underground caverns, and scooting around in your little motorbike. Look at you go! All this charm, friendliness, and good old-fashioned fun is great. But you know what I really like about the game? It's made by one guy, one tireless, hard-working developer, and he's really poured his heart and soul into it. So great job, James Bendon. I appreciate you. Yes, of course, our number 1 spot is Stardew Valley, another fantastic creation by a lone, incredibly talented and passionate developer. The game is a love song to the genre, and while it's built itself on the reputation and legacy of Harvest Moon and Friends, it's forged a new path and made itself the new staple of the genre. If you have a look at a timeline of farming games, you'll notice a turning point. I don't have a timeline, but imagine it's here. Everything over here, old, clunky, fun for a bit, but also a bit sluggish. No real magic. And then, over here, everything has similarities. It's all a bit more playful. The games all feel like cousins. They look a bit different. They have their own mannerisms. They have some common DNA. And then, here, right in the middle, the key moment that links it all together, Stardew Valley. It consolidated all that came before it and influenced all that came after it. It's a brilliant title, filled with oh so many activities. I've said them so many times today, but once more. Fishing, mining, farming, exploring, wooing townspeople, bartering, dancing, chopping, fighting, yada yada yada. It does them all. And to top it all off, it's also multiplayer. But then again, so are a bunch of the other games on this list. I forgot to mention that. I don't usually think about friends. If you long to escape the frivolity of life and the urban rat race, Stardew Valley should be your #1 destination. If you don't like that one, well, then start working backwards up the list. There's something for all varieties and all people. And that's a wrap. An array of different games for people who like to cultivate cabbages, tend to turnips, and whisper poems to their favourite parsnips. For all your green thumbs and fishing freddies, there's a game for literally everyone here. Apart from those who don't like farming games, which I'm guessing is about 80 to 90% of people. Well, you can't please them all. See you next time. Grew this one myself.